and on the flip side too is even for us, we see things that we don't agree with, but then we also have to make sure that we question what we're doing as well. Because that's
Mhm.
the other thing too is maybe other people see what we're doing, we might have a blind spot as well, right? So that's one thing that I think is important as well, and that I hope others are doing is questioning everything that you do, questioning yourself so to make sure that you're on the right track. Because that's it's easy to kind of fall into your own kind of echo chamber, I guess you could say, in your own theories on things, and then just and be wrong really, and then
Yeah.
you're too deep in the hole that you don't want to come out if you find out that you're wrong. So you'll dig your heels in and just fight to and pretend that you're right. So you don't want to turn that way. So that's the other thing too. So I think both of us have to deal with that too. Is even though I think that we're right on a lot of things, is keeping that open mind, making sure that we don't have that blind spot, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always questioning things. And for like I said, for the most part, actually not for the most part, everything I've posted upon, I usually have so much evidence, whether it's like for like training and like scientific point, or from a goalie side where I'm going to use math and stuff, because I vetted it so many times in my brain that I'm like, "Oh, am I wrong?" Like that video I posted this morning, I should have said chest from A to B. I went through it so many times in my head, and I was like, "There's no way people can get this misconstrued. There's no way." And yet people did, and that's on me. And I didn't see that, and so I dropped the ball on that. And you came in with a good post, and then Bouge came in with another one, and so and then I'm like, so how'd you miss that? And so that helps me going forward. But like if I just throw things out in the ether and don't care, then I never learn. But I'm also trying, like, there is no Jamie Phillips method of goaltending. You know, my method of goaltending is just what is working from other goalies. What can I take? What can I seen? And how can I add that to my current 5'11" super flexible goalie? Okay, that changes things. How can I tweak him? And because there's no method. I'm never gonna say like, oh, I know the way to create goalies. Like, I'm a pretty good goalie coach. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm not. So if someone wants to work with me, I want to work with them, and that's it. Someone wants to work with you, I'll be like, absolutely, go do it. And then even if someone's working with me and wants to go work with someone else, I say, for sure, go see if you like them. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And if you want to come back, I'm here. And if you don't, good luck, man. I'm happy to have had a part of your career.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the thing. There's no method because you kind of fall into the bias of your time, right? So like
Mhm.
at one point, VH didn't exist. Our VH didn't exist. Those things didn't exist, and we just live within that reality that those things weren't a thing. Now they are. So
Mhm.
there might be something in the future that we're not aware of that's going to become a thing, right? So you have to be flexible with those things because there's no real true way of playing. That's something that we're always just discovering, right? And the way I kind of see it is I think about it as propositions. It's like the way I teach is it's like, okay, here's a proposition. In position is angle, body position, depth. Here's what those things are. Okay, well,
Mhm.
how do you want to prioritize those? Angle first, body position second, depth third. Well, if that's true, here's my proposition when you're moving. When you're moving side to side, because angle is your priority, we have to go through the middle of a crease to
Yeah.
regain angle. So you keep basically the idea behind it is you have a proposition and
Mhm.
that's logical, and then from there you build on top of it, you create something else, and you build on top and you build on top and you build on top, and the something that's logical doesn't necessarily make it true though. that's the,
Yeah.
that's the one. It could be very logical, but it might not be true. It could be false. So that's when the open mind kind of comes in. But that's kind of the way I see goaltending. I see it as sets of propositions. You propose a string of logic, I guess, and those strings of logics connect, and you basically, because it's all logic, somebody could argue something against it. But it always has to be grounded in logic, I guess I should say. There has to be a logic behind it. And if it and it also has to, I think it also has to connect where, if you I don't know, if you believe. So the way I kind of see it is, take a stance, for example. When a goalie is in their stance, the purpose of their stance is to be able to do two things. You need to be able to move, and you need to be able to make a save. Because if you
Yeah.
can't do any of those two things, then what's the point of even getting the stance? Like, why even getting the stance at this point, right? So you
Mhm.
need to be able to do those two things. Well, now I kind of use that string of logic to when goalies go down their RVH. When they go down in RVH is can you move and can you
Mhm.
make a save? If you can move but you cannot make a save, then we have to adjust it somehow.
Yeah.
If you can make it, if you can move, or vice versa, whatever it is, you gotta be able to adjust it. So now maybe in certain situations, mobility doesn't matter as much as just being able to make a save, right?
Mhm.
You could say that, but I guess that's the way I kind of see it. Is there's no true way of playing. It's just like you propose things that are set in logic, and then you present it to the goalie, and if the goalie likes it, they'll apply it, and hopefully it works for them, right? Because they're
Yeah.
all individuals, and hopefully it'll work out for them.
Yeah, and I like that. I like the way you explained it, and I use the saying inputs and outputs a lot. So in every situation, like a rush play, there's there's one input. Plays coming down the rush, it's a 3-on-2. There are a lot of outputs. Now, as that player passes, now there's the input changes, and so do the number of outputs. And so like this comes to the argument of like, everyone cannot agree, no one can agree on post plays. And that's why like everyone just so many like just everyone gets so mad at the RVH because no can agree on playing it because there's so many outputs for one input. The guy can shoot, the guy can walk, he can wrap, he can pass. And so there's no one way that you're able to cover all those outputs. And so unless that player gets themselves in a position where there's 1, 2, or 3 outputs, then you can come up with the best solution. But if they still have 5 or 6, that's when goalies get caught in the middle and they have to make a decision. And sometimes that pays off and sometimes it doesn't. But the thinking that there's always one output for every input, it's not that simple. I mean, I guess if a player is in the middle, they're and alone with the goalie, there's one input being the guy's going to shoot, and the output is, I guess, you make the save or you get scored on. So now, but I guess more you could break it down and say the outputs are like where is the location that varies. But I try to simplify it as either like a shot or a pass. But almost never is that situation occur, and especially not on rush plays at a bad angle. That's when there's the most amount of outputs. And that's why everyone gets so confused, because also the outputs change based on if you go into an RVH early or a VH early, or are you an overlap? And now everything changes, and that's where it gets confusing. And I think I like the way you said it, where it's just like focus on, can you move? Can you make the save? And then let's just work our way from there.
It's net play is so hard.
Yeah.
It's just this week with one of my goalies. It's funny because one thing that's happening a lot is people are talking about goalies going down too early in their RVH, and with the goalie that I was working with this week, it was the opposite issue where he's going down too late. So what was happening is when players are attacking from below the goal line, as they're passing, he's going down in RVH, and the puck will get past him, and then by the time he go down and then push, he's always delayed. So now we talk about going down early. So if he establishes RVH early and then the pass leaves, he's able to extend off his post right away. But it's kind of funny because it's like that it just goes to show how, that's when you get into nuances, right? Like
Yeah.
the technique of how you RVH is the same across the board. It's like the way I teach it is the same. They're just mechanics. It's like we talk about their base and we talk about their upper body, all these things, but like the technique of it's the same, but the application is, it's going to be so different across the board. In this situation, he was out too late, I thought. So that was the thing. Is I proposed. I had a proposal. Right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I'm seeing. This is what, so I'm proposing that you go down a little bit earlier for these reasons. So it was like based on logic, but then it's like it might have been wrong. It might have been one of those things where it's like him going down too early. It might have caused other issues down the road. But he played 2 games this week. Seems like it's worked out okay. So
Yeah.
keep fingers crossed. But it's hard because like when you start, yeah, I think it's hard because it's such an individualized position that that there's no right or wrong way. Like especially for timing, there's no right or wrong way. Even overlap, right? Goalies might prefer to overlap in certain situations than others because some might want to transition on their post earlier because they feel comfortable reacting from their post and making saves from their others don't, right? And so you can obviously there's 2 ways to approach it. You can either they can play within their strengths while making their weaknesses better. So maybe you tell them to overlap and it will work on the other, over transitioning to their post and reacting from there a bit more. But it's hard, man, because it's all individualized and there's no right or wrong answer. And that's one thing sometimes when people argue those individualized things, it's like, I saw a video somebody posted a little while back about Tetcher Demko. There's a guy that kind of cut around the faceoff dot and released a shot, and Demko went down in RVH, and he was very compact, and the puck beat him over the top. And it was the argument of like, well, should he be in that position? And the way I kind of saw it is like, well, I've seen him do this often, but the difference is usually when he does it, he stays reactive. This time he's compact. So I kind of used the logic of blocking versus reacting. We're going to block and be compact when the puck's in tighter proximity, and when we're on angle by position and depth. Because if the puck's in tight, but you're off angle, you're not going to be blocking anything if you're compact. So being compact only works if you're in position and the puck's in tight. Well, now using that logic, he could, if he likes to transition to his pole into his RVH, as long as he stays reactive and he makes that save, I don't care. But it's one of those things like, is the problem that he was in his RVH, or is the problem that he was not reactive enough, right? And that's something that there's some nuances in there, but that's the one thing I do notice sometimes. It's very black and white. Like people get really heated when it comes to RVH discussions. I don't know why, but I just feel like, yeah, we're kind of losing some of the nuance, because some goalies can get away with it because they're so reactive from their knees, and there's other guys that have to stay on their feet, and it just depends. Depends on the individual, really, right?
Yeah, and I'd want to keep this conversation going, but it is 9:30 for me here, so it's about my bedtime.
Fair enough, man.
I really enjoyed this. We should do this at least like once a month or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And just pick each other's brains and everything, because there's so many other, like, just even in post plays alone, I want to go down just a couple of rabbit holes. Like why does no one use VH anymore? It's a great tool. But yeah.
So
let's
do it.
This is perfect. Let me